What is good, everybody? It is Spill here, and welcome back to another NBA 2K Lab video. In this one, we're going to be taking a look at all of the 24 different takeovers and ranking them on our tier list from the worst all the way to the best. If you're just looking for the final tier list, you could of course just skip to the end, but I'm going to be going over each takeover, and I also have some examples of what some takeovers might look like if you're not familiar. If you're new to the channel, man, be sure to subscribe, and we're going to get right into it. For every tier list video, we always start at the bottom and work our way up, and starting off in the C tier, we have the post playmaking takeover. This takeover says that it boosts your teammates' offensive abilities when passing out to them from the post, so it's basically just the post playmaker badge, but better. Now, with shooting already being pretty easy though, this badge makes for a negligible boost, and almost any other takeover will benefit you more. I'm not going to speak on this one too much, but that's why we have it in the C tier. Next, we have power backdowns, which is another post takeover, and this one is pretty self-explanatory. You'll be able to back down just about any defender, and it's honestly not the worst takeover, and it could maybe go into the B tier, but it won't help you finish in the paint, and with paint defense being pretty wonky this year, there's other post takeovers that are better than this one. Now, if you ran double takeover with advanced post moves, maybe this combo could be pretty effective, but for power backdowns just by itself, it's a C tier takeover. Next is enhanced jump shot contest, and this takeover says that it provides a large boost to your shot contest against perimeter jump shots. Contested shots are already pretty hard to hit, especially if you have the challenger badge, and out of all the lockdown takeovers, this is probably the worst one when it comes to actually seeing a difference on the court. Then we have glass clearing dimes, and I don't know what it is with 2K and giving random takeovers a passing ability, but here we are with rebounding takeover telling us to pass the ball. Now, this takeover boosts your teammates' offensive abilities on kickouts and helps throw successful outlet passes, but this is easily the least effective takeover out of the three when it comes to rebounding. Next, we have team takeover boost in the C tier, as the other playmaking takeovers are going to benefit you just a little bit more overall. Now, the team takeover boost says that it boosts the progress of each of your teammates' takeover meters when activated. I can see this being maybe decent for bigs, as they can get takeover pretty easily from grabbing rebounds and throwing the outlet, which can then maybe get your teammates takeover easier, but honestly, I'd rather have team ratings or a badge boost. This can actually work pretty well with an organized team, but it's not all that hard to get takeover anyways, so that's why this takeover is in the C tier. Now we have advanced gathers, and basically if you like to use euros, spins, and hops on your way to the rim, this would ideally be the takeover you'll want to use, but in reality, although it can work well in some situations, the other slashing takeovers, like finishing moves and easy blow-bys, are just going to be easier to use and abuse, while this one requires more skill and finesse, and it's also a lot more niche, so for those reasons, we have it in the C tier. Now for our last takeover in the C tier, I'm going with interior badge drop, and this just isn't going to help much in the paint because lowering badges like fast twitch or masher or drop stepper seem pretty negligible compared to the returns of the other takeovers. Stopping these moves usually requires more than just a badge drop. You're going to need some strength, some interior, so that's why we have it in the C tier. Now as we move into the B tier, these are the takeovers that are going to be more playstyle focused, and they can be decent, but they're still just not up there with the A and the S tier takeovers. Starting off, we have stuff blocks, and this takeover gives you access and increases the ability to perform grab and swap blocks and backboard pins. So that's the description of it, and while it sounds cool and sounds powerful, it really just unlocks better animations, and you still have to play defense and be in the right position, and just because you jump for a block on defense doesn't mean you'll automatically get a stuff block. Now the other rim takeovers provide a bit more stopping power with less effort, which is why we have this in the B tier. Next we have post shot daggers, and I did say this B tier was more playstyle focused, and this is actually the perfect example. This takeover gives a large boost to post hooks, fades, up and unders, shimmies, and hop shots, which means that if you are a post scorer or you like to operate in the post, this takeover can actually work really well for you. Unfortunately, not many people like to score out of the post, leaving this as an unpopular option for most, but if you like to mainly post hook or fade, this is definitely a takeover to consider. Next up is perimeter badge drop, and this is one I actually like a lot, even though it is in the B tier, but this takeover drops the opposition's offensive badges down a tier when getting near them on the perimeter. This is like the menace badge, but instead of dropping attributes, it drops badge levels, which is far more effective than menace could ever be. It's still only in the B tier because you have to be closely guarding them in order for it to activate. Doubling up this takeover can actually drop badges by 2 levels, which is also something to consider if you choose this takeover. Then we have spot up precision, and this one is the most basic takeover of all time. It says that it provides a significant boost to well-timed stationary jump shots, which is pretty straightforward. Basically just catch and shoot on steroids, and it makes greening those shots extremely easy. It works well but doesn't offer anything crazy, so that's why we have it in the B tier. I'm not going to speak much more on this one. Next we have see the future, and in theory this takeover should be kind of OP, and it used to be in previous 2Ks, days, but they've since toned it down, and while it can still be effective, it's still in the B tier because even if you know where the ball is going, it doesn't exactly mean you can get there every time. You can see by this clip, I contested the defender to force the miss, and even though I knew where the ball was going, it wasn't even too far from me, I was still out rebounded by someone already in position. So this takeover isn't exactly the best, which is why we have it in the B tier. Next up is ankle breaking shots, and this takeover increases the likelihood of dropping defenders and making step back and spin jumpers. So if you're going for a clip, this is a takeover you'll probably want to use, but in terms of its effectiveness, you'll be better off with any of the other shot creating takeovers. This takeover used to break ankles pretty frequently in some of the other 2Ks, but also seems like it's been toned down a bit, so that's why we have it where it is. Now lastly, in the B tier, we have team badge boost, which increases the effectiveness of your teammates' offensive badges for a period of time after passing them the ball. The key phrase there is after passing them the ball. This takeover can work really well for boosting badges like Gold Limitless Range to Hall of Fame or Gold Deadeye to Hall of Fame, which makes for some insane upgrades on the court, but if you're running solo, this may not be the most ideal takeover, but it can work well if you're playing with friends. Now finally, we're moving into the A tier and we're starting with advanced post moves, and this takeover makes it easier to beat defenders with post spins, fakes, drives, and clearouts. If you're an inside scorer or even just have a decent close shot rating, this badge can work wonders as it basically gives you a freestanding layup or dunk. This takeover can shove defenders out of the way, which leaves you alone under the basket almost every time for a free bucket. When used properly, this takeover is one of the most frustrating takeovers to defend. If you're a post scorer, this is probably the best and most effective takeover to use, easily justifying the A tier placement. Next, we have the finishing moves takeover, and this one helps you absorb and finish through contact on layups, dunks, and alley-oops. So ideally, it will give you more contact dunks and easier finishes through contact, which may actually help with acrobat finishes as well. But in a game where rim running rules, this takeover makes for a decent option if your main focus is to put someone on a poster. This isn't the best slashing takeover as we have one more to go over, but it is probably the second best option and can work especially well if you like to use the meter to dunk. Then we have extreme clamps, and if you're playing defense and want to make it tough for the offensive player, this is the takeover you want to use. It can stonewall ball handlers into more forced stops, pickups, and fumbles when you body them up. Now this clip isn't the best, but you can see I'm easily getting the contact anytime I come near the offensive player, forcing him into a tough spot. If you want more clamp animations when playing defense, this is a takeover to use, and it works really well, which is why we have it as the best perimeter defensive takeover. Next up is pull-up precision, and for me, I love to fade, and this makes hitting fades insanely easy. This takeover says that it provides a significant boost to well-timed jump shots taken off the dribble, and if you like to shoot these types of shots, it's definitely a takeover to consider. There's not much more that needs to be said. Fades in this game are pretty powerful already, and boosting something that's already pretty powerful easily makes this an A tier takeover. Now for our last shot creating takeover, we have negative impact, and if you like to take aggressive shots off the dribble, this might be the takeover you want. It reduces the impact of shot contests against pull-up, step back, and spin shots, but personally I try to avoid shooting when I know it's contested, but for more aggressive shooters, this takeover is like a better version of blinders and deadeye, which will make your shot attempt slightly more forgiving in those situations. Now we're moving into the S tier, the final part of our tier list for the most powerful takeovers and most likely the ones that you should be using. Starting off, we have Limitless Range, which is my personal favorite, and this takeover is insane when it comes to shooting from distance. This takeover says that it extends your shooting ability well beyond the 3-point line, and even without the Limitless Range shooting badge, you can shoot from just about anywhere. In this clip, I'm on my power forward with only an 82 3-point, and with this takeover, I have no hesitation shooting these types of shots, which is why we have Limitless Range in the S tier. For our next takeover, we have the best slashing takeover in the game, and that is easy blow-bys. This takeover enhances the ability to drive by defenders, making it easier to get to the rim. So when it comes to slashing, it basically turns 2K23 into 2K18, and if you remember, the blow-bys in 18 were absolutely unstoppable, which is almost exactly how this feels. In this clip, I put on easy blow-bys for the first time, and basically my first possession with this takeover was the easiest blow-by I could have ever imagined. If you're looking for the easiest way to get to the rim, look no further than this takeover right here. Then for the best playmaking takeover, we have team ratings boost, and this one is pretty straightforward, and it gives a large boost to your teammates' offensive abilities for a period of time. I love when someone on my team has this takeover because with the extra ratings boost, I'm able to shoot more confidently, and especially in those tight windows. In this clip, I'm sitting corner, and I know my teammate has ratings boost, so my 82 3-point is getting boosted naturally by my takeover, and then again by the ratings boost, so I'm able to easily knock down this contested shot, which is why we have team ratings in the S tier. Now next, we have paint intimidation, and if you're looking for the best and easiest way to get a stop in the paint, then you have to use paint intimidation. This takeover delivers a severe penalty to every contested shot taken in the paint, and it's a lot like Anchor, but even better. Anchor is already an S tier badge, and like I said before, boosting something that is already insanely good makes this takeover S tier without a doubt. Now for our last and final takeover in the S tier, and just in general, we have box out wall, and this is probably the best rebounding takeover takeover in general, just because it allows you to block out stronger players and also can allow you to swim around them to secure more rebounds. Now this takeover works really well, and when it's activated, you're going to hold some serious box outs, and you'll also be seeing a lot more worm animations. That's why this takeover is so much more powerful than something like See the Future, where it has an actual effect in the game as opposed to just a visual cue. Now that is our final takeover tier list. Some of these can be better or worse depending on your playstyle, and if you think something should be higher or lower, drop a comment and let me know what you guys think down below. But hopefully this video gives you a general idea of the most effective takeovers to use, and if this video did help you, don't forget to drop a like. It's been Spill. I'm out. Later.